Hi everyone, and welcome back to National 5 Biology. It's been a little while since I've posted anything to do with the National 5 curriculum. This is going to be a short series of videos that are more focused on revision and some study techniques rather than the actual curriculum itself. So hopefully you're still finding the videos for National 5 quite useful. But one of the main questions I get asked on this site is, how do I start revising, or what's the best way to revise, or how do I study? Now, it's different for everyone is the main point of this, okay? But what I do want to do in these videos is to show you where I would start off and what I think is really, really important for you revising for any upcoming assessments you might have. So very briefly, we're going to just start off on the first one here called checking for understanding. What I really think you should be doing whenever you're coming up to any sort of assessment or just revision in general for National 5 Biology is, first of all, you need to check for understanding. What that means is look for what you're good at, look for what you know, identify some areas that you're maybe not too sure about or not as confident, and also identify areas that you just maybe don't get or you find really tricky. And that's really important. And I'm going to show you the quickest, the easiest way to do this. It's something you'll all be able to have access to. It's a free resource. And I'd say pupils I have that go and do this tend to be the ones that are most confident and have the most confidence in their revision. And the second part, we're not going to go into in really any detail in this video, but I will do at a later point, is you then need to focus on revising your weakest areas. Now, what that means is that it doesn't mean just don't revise the rest of the course, but what people can be quite bad for is, say you're very confident with the structure of cells, and you're very good at that, and you've done a bunch of questions on it, you always get them right, you're feel good with it. Don't keep revising that part. Don't just leave it, like come back to it. But you really should also be focusing on the areas that you're not doing well on. It's very natural for people to think, right, I don't know anything about osmosis, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to avoid that because that just makes me feel like I don't know anything. I'm going to keep doing the questions on cells because you feel good about it. Okay, it gives you a bit of confidence, but you're ignoring the area that you need to improve on, and that's really what's going to help you. And the final part of this is exam practice. Now, again, we won't go into much detail in this video on this one, but I'll do another video on how to properly use past papers and how this will work out for you. Again, it doesn't matter how many quizzes you do or how many notes you rewrite or draw out in a really nice way. If you don't apply that knowledge to exam papers and look at the way the SQA ask you questions and the exam style language and how bits of details can be hidden in the question, then you're not going to do as well in the exam as you should, because you do have all this knowledge and you just need to learn how to apply it to the exam. Okay, so for this video, I just want to again quite briefly show you how to check for understanding, and I think this is something that's going to make you feel a lot more confident with your revision, and it's going to be the best thing for you to structure your revision. So first of all, on the SQA website, if you just search for any course, and again, this video is for National 5 Biology. It also works exactly the same for higher human, advanced higher, but really it also applies to any other course you do in school as well. If you go to the SQ website, you'll find course information for National 5 Biology, and one of the things will be called a course specification. And it's just a PDF of essentially everything you need to know about the course. It's got detail for teachers, it's got a bit of detail about how your exam will be set up and how your assignment gets done, that sort of things. But what it does have, really importantly, is it has all the required knowledge that you could be assessed on. So basically, anything they can ask you a question about will be detailed in the course specification, but also the required depth of knowledge. So what you need to know about it, how deep you need to know about this. Now, the main thing here, I'm just going to show you this, how this actually works, is first of all, we're going to have a quick look at the course. So if you go onto the SQA website, you'll have all this information here. For example, just the past papers and marking instructions that you'll hopefully use later on. But this course specification, if you just click onto that part there, all you have to do is download that PDF. And then what happens with that PDF is it's just all this information here. Now, check it's an up-to-date one. If it's the SQA website, it will be the most up-to-date. It gives you a bunch of information about the course in terms of how many marks your exam will be, how many marks your assignment will be. There's some detail later on there about how the assignment is made up, which will be very useful for you if that's the part you're focusing on. But essentially, as you work through this, it tells you a bit more information about skills you'll develop, what you should really be coming in with a knowledge of. And there is a bit here. Now, this is quite important. they will give you some of this knowledge here. You might have seen it towards the end of my PowerPoints on the main parts of all the key areas of all units of National 5. That's great, that's really useful. However, if you actually go further down until the pages then go landscape, sorry if this is a bit too fast for the video, but if you go down to here, you have the same information, but it also tells you the depth of knowledge that you require as well. So for example, if you're looking at this one here, if you're starting on key area 1 of the first unit, cell biology, and you look at cells and you say, right, I'm aware that cells have these different parts and what the function of a mitochondria is, or which of the cells have a cell wall, all that sort of things, then that's you identifying what you know about the course. Some students like to go and highlight this, so you could simply do a highlight in green if you're very confident, amber if you're not too sure, and red if you have absolutely no clue. That's quite a nice visual way of figuring out the areas you're good at and the areas you need to focus on as well. But also this depth of knowledge. So for example here, you might remember that cellulose is something to do with a cell wall, okay, and that's great. But in the depth of knowledge, it is telling you that the cell wall in plant cells is made up of cellulose, but there's different materials that make up the cell walls in fungal and bacterial cells. However, you don't actually need to know what they are made up of. But again, if you were to be given a question in an exam about what is cellulose used for, and you said it makes up cell walls, that'd be incorrect because it doesn't make up the cell wall of a fungi or bacteria. So again, there's just parts here that you need to be quite careful with. Don't worry about the learning activities. That's more for your teachers to kind of look at ways to actually give you this information. But essentially, if you go through this again with a highlighter or tick or cross or anything like that at all, easiest if you print it out if you are able to do that. If you go through all of these, have a look at the areas you're not sure about. There might be whole key areas that you're not too sure about or not that confident, or it might just be certain parts. So for example, DNA, you might be really happy with your A's, T's, C's and G's and what a gene is and the double-stranded helix, but you might not be too sure about protein synthesis. So you might put this bit as an amber, for example, and that's what you're going to use to then go and look at the various notes or the YouTube videos or PowerPoints, wherever it is, focus on those areas and then look at revision questions. So again, this is what I think is definitely the best way of structuring your revision. I think it's a great way of assessing what your strengths are because you will all have areas that you're very good at and also looking at what you need to improve. It might also be that you're quite happy with a lot of the curriculum, but you need to focus on the problem-solving elements. And that's, again, something that I'll be creating quite soon. So anyway, hope you find this useful. And again, I would suggest using this method to plan out your revision. I know that for some, prelims will be coming up fairly soon, or you might be doing some unit assessments. So it might be a good time for you to go through your notes, have a look at what you're good at, and have a look at what you need to focus on. So hope you find this useful, and I'll speak to you soon with another video on how you focus on these weak areas, what sort of questions you can do to help, and then how we actually use past papers for exams. Okay, thanks so much for listening, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.